There is no incentive on the current regime to address genuinely the challenges affecting Zimbabwe.
Tikavunza Jehovah ari kumusaroko kuti nyika yeZimbabwe inotongwa nani? Mwari anoti inotongwa neZANU-PF.
Chokwadi pasi pano taiona moto marongera vanoita wepanyika vanoda kudesu vamwe tioneswe moto dai pasina kupindira kwaishe chokwadi pasi pano taiona moto marongera vanoita wepanyika vanoda kudesu vamwe tioneswe moto.
This is the situation right now here on Heart and Soul TV and radio in proud partnership with Cotrad. Now, we are looking into the audit reports that the Parliament of Zimbabwe has received. Now, as you know, annually, the Auditor General presents audit reports of government finances to the Parliament for its looking at it and so that they also find out the gaps, how taxpayers' money are being used and how they are being abused as well. And after that report is given to Parliament, we also obviously expect if there are any issues of corruption, fraud, for the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission to act. Now, we are in conversation this afternoon with former Finance Minister, Harare East Honorable Member of Parliament of the House of Assembly, and the Vice President of the CCC, the CCC, Tendai Biti, Honorable Tendai Biti. Thank you very much, Honorable Tendai Biti, and thank you for joining me.
Good morning, Dara, and good morning to your viewers and listeners.
Now, we want to discuss the 2020 audit report. Now, just from you having read it and appreciated it, what are the major highlights for you from that audit report?
Yeah, it's shocking. It's shocking, and I hope that Parliament's Public Accounts Committee, which I used to chair, will do a decent job in unpacking it and in exposing it. This report actually shows a number of things. That number one, we literally don't have a government. Or more precisely, we have a pariah government, a rogue government that doesn't respect Parliament, that doesn't respect the budgets that are passed. Number two, the omissions, no one pays attention to the statements, the qualifications, the findings by the Auditor General. So it appears when you read the 2017 audit report, the 2018 audit report, the 2019 audit report, and the current one, the 2020 audit report, it is as if the more the auditor speaks and complains and raises an issue, the more they amplify it in breach, not in addressing, not in dealing with the mischief. And so there's a culture of impunity. There's a culture of indifference. There's a culture of we don't care. You can do whatever you want. And increasingly, there is unbridled, unapproved over expenditure, which the Auditor General euphemistically refers to in her reports as unapproved, unallocated reserves. When she puts it like that, there's some sophistry, there's some sophistication. But it's just putting a lipstick, putting mascara on a demon. It's just a euphemism for saying these people are spending money outside parliament without approval. And these amounts have been increasing. So in 2017, it was 2.7 billion US dollars. In 2018, it was 3.5 billion US dollars. In 2019, it was 6.9 billion US dollars. 2020, it's 102 billion Zimbabwean dollars now. But of course, whatever exchange rate you use to convert the 102 billion Zimbabwean dollars into US dollars will give you a figure of 25 billion US dollars. So it's ridiculous. So increasingly, the over expenditure is increasing. Meanwhile, the complaints by the Auditor General are increasing. But the more the Auditor General yells and screams, she may as well scream on the top of Mount Everest. They don't care. The more they actually increase their levels of non-compliance. So 2019 is very significant because in 2019, the accounts of the Ministry of Finance were qualified. The Auditor General raises 57 issues against the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance is a sui generis ministry. It's an extraordinary ministry in that it is like any other ministry. It gets money from Parliament, but it is also an oversight ministry. It supervises other ministries. It regulates expenditure, and it is given this function in terms of the Public Finance Management Act, this oversight role over other ministries. It houses the office of the Auditor General. So it houses the office of the Accountant General. And the Accountant General is the public figure responsible for payments. It houses the office of the Paymaster General, who is the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance. And the Paymaster General is the one who receives the budget, the blue book, from the Parliament, and ensures that all payments are done in terms of the blue book. All payments are done in terms of the appropriation done by Parliament. So it is a gatekeeper. The Ministry of Finance is a gatekeeper. The Ministry of Finance is the head boy. So you have a situation where the gatekeeper becomes the gate crusher. The head boy is responsible for making sure that students are running away from the dormitory, and he's the one who is in front leading that queue. And so another disturbing thing for 2020 now is that the number of accounts of ministries, the audit report, deals with about 35 ministries. And what is disturbing is that 48% of the accounts are all qualified. 48% is almost 50%. So in other words, on 50% of the public accounts, the Auditor General is unable to express an opinion. And in some cases, she actually expresses an adverse opinion. And in some cases, she actually issues what in auditing language is called a disclaimer. A disclaimer means, yes, I saw them, but I can't say. Disqualification means these ones are rubbish. Qualification means I can't pass this. I can't pass this. So 50% of the government accounts are either qualified or disclaimed, or there's an adverse report. Auditors out there will know what I'm talking about. But in layman's language, it's a vote of no confidence. It's in layman's language, the accounts are a dog's breakfast. In layman's language, we have a dysfunctional a government. That's in general terms. I can go into specific issues now if you want me to.
Yeah, I would want us to go to the specific issue of the Ministry of Finance, because reading the Auditor General's report, it also says that Ministry of Finance ended up taking the responsibility of paying directly bills accrued by other ministries, even without those ministries knowing. Let's talk about that.
Yes. So there are a number of omissions. There are a number of sins, there are a number of crimes done by the Ministry of Finance. And what you highlight is just one of them. So let me just try to break down what this audit report says. So the first damning thing that the audit report says is that the government overspent by 102 billion Zimbabwean dollars. Which is frightening. It's more than double what Parliament itself had approved. So it means it's a waste of time going to Parliament pretending that we have got a budget. So they have to seek condonation. And I guess that is what Mthuli is trying to do, the Minister of Finance, in the Financial Adjustment Bill of 102 billion, which he has just brought before Parliament. But I'm not sure whether they are related. But if they are related, he has got a problem, because the Constitution says he must bring that condonation bill, adjustment bill, within 60 days of him knowing of his omissions. Now the audit bill has been brought more than 2 years after the 2020 audited statements. We are now in 2022. These are 2020 accounts. So he has a pickle on his hands. Not that he minds dirty hands, because his hands are dirty. So that's the second thing. So that's the first thing. The second thing that is very terrible, unbelievable. You would have thought that with the over expenditure of 102 billion, ministries would then be
Fully funded.
fully funded. But if you look at the first paragraph of that audit statement, after the introduction and the Auditor General's explanation of why she was late, is the fact that ministries were underfunded by 150 million Zimbabwean dollars. Ministries like health and so forth. In short, ministries were under, the budget only performed to the extent of 36%. So the question that then arises is, if you are underfunding by a factor of 64%, and you are overshooting by 102 billion, where is the money actually going if it is not going to ministries? Which is why I said this audit statement will make any decent person cry, because it means there's a parallel government that is doing things that have nothing to do with the people of Zimbabwe. That has nothing to do with the aspirations of the people of Zimbabwe, is captured in the budget for Ministry of Health, for Ministry of Education, for Ministry of Land, for Ministry of Agriculture. The budget is funding other things other than the national interest. And we have to ask now, where did this money actually go to? And I hope this is what the Public Accounts Committee will now do. So in other words, we need an audit of this $102 billion to actually see where it went, because we know that it didn't go to line ministries.
Maybe it built 1,200 schools.
Line ministries were underfunded. You understand? So I suspect it has been funding their state capture issues like mines for Tagirei, illegal, illicit things. But the people of Zimbabwe have a duty to know and to ask if ministries were underfunded by 150 million, yet you overspent by 102 billion. You were spending the money on what? If you were not spending it on our water, on our roads, on our health, and on our schools. So I now want to come to specific omissions. So the first thing that they've been doing is that they've been making payments without any supporting vouchers. The Ministry of Finance has been making payments without any supporting vouchers. So the Auditor General is unable to see where, what the payment was for.
How does that happen, Honorable Biti? You were finance minister before. How does the Ministry of Finance start making payments directly without any vouchers?
Yeah, because there's corruption. There's corruption. Because people are taking orders. Maybe from the minister himself, maybe from the president, maybe from who just says, please pay that person. Please pay that person. But there is no record. There is no, there are no accounting documents. And it's a substantial amount of money, way in excess of 200, 300 million. So this is payment without vouchers. This is just the ministry paying without vouchers. So no one can be able to trace why this amount was paid. Number two is now the situation where the ministry appropriates the functions of line ministries and makes direct payments on their behalf. We saw this in the 2017 audit report when I was chief chair of the Public Accounts Committee. We saw this in 2018 report. We saw this in 2019 report, but they haven't stopped. They are doing that. And most of the payments are for agriculture. Most of the payments are for command agriculture. They pay directly to suppliers. And then they write to the ministry now to say, we paid on your behalf, now account this in your books. And ministries, of course, refuse. Finance directors refuse. Because you can't make me eat that which I didn't cook, that which I didn't even know you cooked at all. So that's why these things are caught, because financial directors are protesting. And there are huge amounts of money. The third commission and the Auditor General goes to town about this. The government uses what is called the Public Finance Management System. It's software. It's a program. So when the budget is approved by Parliament, the budget is then entered line item. So let's take the Ministry of Education. The Ministry of Education will have money to build schools. It will have money for textbooks. It will have money for sub-teachers' salaries. It will have money for ancillaries like chalk, blackboards, vehicles, and so forth. So this system is so complicated and so astute, and I built it with funds from the African Development Bank. We got a grant from the African Development Bank way back in 2009. So this system is such that if the money is meant for water, it must go for water. If it goes for milk, there's a problem. But I'll come to that. So now there's a discrepancy now between amounts entered into the public finance management system and amounts recorded in the physical books of accounts now. The two must match. Meaning that someone is cooking books somewhere, either the public finance management system itself or the books themselves. So the Auditor General goes to town about that, about the cooking of books. Then number 4, there are ministries. And the Ministry of Health the Ministry of Education was fingered, the Ministry of Finance itself was fingered, the Ministry of Education was fingered. Huge amounts of money where money is appropriated for Project X. In my earlier example, if money is supposed to go for textbooks and you buy vehicles, then you have to build the system. So that is happening a lot. That is happening a lot. That is happening a lot. Money is meant for item 5 are going to item 9. And of course, that breaches audit situations. Next breach, when you spend money, the Auditor General, the Accountant General must give what is called a warrant, an authority for you to spend. Monies are also being spent without a warrant. So if monies are being spent without a warrant, you've gone rogue. You're now a bandit. Wachigananda. because you are now spending money without authority from anyone else. So monies are being spent without warrant. In 2018, we picked that up and were to fire the then existing accountant general, if you recall. But that is still happening. That is still happening. That monies are being issued and spent without warrant. 6, in terms of the Public Finance Management Act, there is another issue of contingent liabilities. Contingent liabilities. Ministries are not reporting their contingent liabilities. Contingent liabilities are where you spend money. Also, where you accrue liability, but you haven't paid for it. So instead of recording a liability, you just keep quiet. But even though you've incurred a cost, and the number one ministry which was picked for that is the Ministry of Agriculture, with almost a billion contingent liabilities not disclosed. And if you don't disclose contingent liabilities, it means there's a misstatement. The books of accounts are not a true reflection of the books. So in a nutshell, there is free for all in government. There are no penalties against errant behavior. The Public Finance Management Act says people must have criminal sanctions. No one is raising any complaint. So it's essentially a banditry state. What really worries some of us is that these issues have been raised since 2014. If you go to 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, the Auditor General's report is the same. What simply changes are the figures. What simply changes are the errand ministries. But the issues being raised, that there is a parallel government, that the government is unaccountable, that the government can't run its books, they are the same. Another disturbing thing is that ministries are supposed to publish and to gazette monthly accounts. They are not doing that. And when you can't publish monthly accounts, it means you can also timeously complete your books of accounts, which have to be completed by March of the following year, so that the Auditor General presents the audit 3 months later by the end of June the following year. So if ministries delay, it also means that the Auditor General delays, which is why today is the 21st of July 2022. We don't have the 2021 audit report. We don't have the 2022 audit report. It's dog's breakfast.
But this I'm speaking to other finance people. They say that this issue of the finance ministry paying directly and then informing the ministry later, the responsible ministry later, has the risk of double payments. That the ministry can then actually pay someone who has already been paid directly. For instance, the Ministry of Agriculture could pay a supplier, and the Ministry of Finance also pays the same supplier for the same service.
Yeah, that actually assumes a normal situation. But this is an abnormal situation. You have to start by saying, what is this payment? Is this payment legitimate? Was this payment authorized and approved in the budget? And you'll find that in 90% of the situation, the ministry is doing its own thing. So ministries are being told, we bought vehicles for you, so please account them. And the minister says, but we don't have the vehicles. We don't even know the vehicles. And then the Minister of Finance just says, just accept and keep quiet. And that is why there's a tug of war. And that is why you see in recent times an increase in the number of permanent secretaries and finance directors being fired or being moved around, because many of them are refusing to accept the thuggery of Mthuli and George Goamatanga.
Amazing. But we do have an anti-corruption fighting commission. And you say that this corruption is so flagrant. It's presented in a audited accounts book by Mildred Chile.
Look, she must be the most frustrated woman in Zimbabwe, because you do your work, you produce your things, and nothing happens. I know she was very happy during my time as chair of the Public Accounts Committee, because we gave her the teeth that she was missing. We went after scoundrels and thugs, the Kudataguireis of this, of this world, the crooks at companies like Univen, the crooks at Zinara, the crooks at the Central Bank. We went for them, and people were shaking. But of course, you know what happened there to liquidate that committee as it was. We made recommendations. We made recommendations that let's follow the example and precedent in other countries. So if you go to Uganda, the Auditor General's report goes to the Anti-Corruption Commission. It goes to the police. And there's a specialized department that acts on that. When the Public Accounts Committee has its meetings, there's a policeman ready to pounce on a culprit, ready to pounce on Chigananda. So there's therefore a connection now between the important work of our public auditor and criminal sanctions. Because without that, the culture of impunity I've spoken of gets entrenched. The culture of entitlement gets entrenched, and regrettably, these two twin evils, impunity and entitlement, are entrenched in Zimbabwe, which is why you see the same culprits every year: Minister of Finance, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Finance, Minister of Agriculture.
You speak about impunity. I also, in reading, I also realized that for instance, the Ministry of Education actually paid for vehicles that have not been delivered up to now, and these vehicles were paid for in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, about 23 of them.
It's clear in black and white. What is said is that this is not new. In 2017, government paid to companies, Pazabasta. They paid for machines. They were not delivered. The most shocking thing about the 2018 audit statement was that the government of Zimbabwe bought 4 aeroplanes from Malaysia. One of them disappeared. Can you imagine an entire aeroplane, a Boeing 777, disappearing only in Zimbabwe? So when we say these guys are bishops of stealing, archbishops, that's exactly what we mean.
But
an entire plane disappeared.
But is it not government policy that you only pay after delivery?
It's
Is it not a financial policy that
those things are gone? What kept this country alive was a strong public finance management system. And one of the things that President Mugabe did was to maintain the British financial infrastructure. So when I got into government as a minister in 2009, one of the things that I realized was that the system is so watertight that no one can even steal a penny from government, because there's so much bureaucracy, there's layers of checks and balances. So it kept this country going. And if you noticed, those that were stealing were not stealing directly from government. They were stealing from parastatals, because there are less stringent rules. There were problems at the central bank, because there are less stringent rules. But you would not hear of the government, and certainly not the Minister of Finance, being at the center of accumulation, of capture, of stealing. Now, what the so-called Second Republic has done is to destroy 38 years of that infrastructure in that legacy and import direct stealing into government itself, into the Ministry of Finance itself. And so, the gatekeeper is now the gate crusher in the form of the Minister of Finance. So Robert Mugabe is standing in his grave. Bernard Chidzero is standing in his grave, because that infrastructure is gone. You don't even know who the accountant general is right now. I don't know, because they've emasculated that office, and that office is now meaningless. That office is now meaningless. Whereas in the past, everyone knew that there was Judith Mazorera, because she was powerful. She exercised her powers. Now those people are gone. Checks and balances are gone. Mthuli Ncube does what he wants. George Guamatanga does what he wants. In fact, the de facto Minister of Finance in Zimbabwe is Kuda Kwashe Tagwire.
Amazing. That's so scary, is it not?
I said at the beginning that these audit reports are shocking. This when I finished reading the 2020 report, I had a migraine. Even if one were to try write a fictional novel on financial crime, you wouldn't write such an excellent tapestry of dishonesty, of mendacity, of capture, of arbitrage, of rent seeking.
The audit report also looks at the finance ministry overperforming. I think it overshot by 130 something percent, is it?
It's a chief culprit. All these unallocated reserves are done through it. So it's the chief culprit. So they have no respect for rules. They have no respect for their own budget that they bring before Parliament. And this financial adjustment bill of 102 billion, he's not going to bring it. He's not going to have a second reading, because he knows that will question him. Just like the 2018 the 2020 financial adjustment bill of 11 billion US dollars, they never brought it, because they are afraid of the public and parliamentarians asking questions. And I wish someone would take them to court and say, where are you with that financial adjustment bill?
But what is it that Zimbabwe can do? Because these are taxpayers' money we were talking about, and they should be accountability. And Parliament is put there for a reason, is it not? For that reason of accountability and transparency for the executive.
I think Parliament is doing a decent job under the circumstances. The Public Accounts Committee is still doing a decent job. I was reading their report on COVID funds. You can't fault them. They're exposing. So the problem is that Parliament is doing its job, but the reports they present just gather dust. We produced a report on the RBZ and how it was messing up this country. It's unlawful debt of about US $8 billion. We produced a report on the Minister of Finance and its 57 omissions. We produced a report on Zinara. We produced a report on Command Agriculture. All these are damning reports. Mrs. Chiri produces reports annually. So the Auditor General is doing a job, Parliament is doing a job, but what about you, the citizens? Well, the citizens, you must be angry. And part of the problem about the citizen no longer has the capacity to be angry. And if you don't have the capacity to be angry, then you get the government you deserve. These kind of things will not happen in South Africa. The people will be on the streets. They will not happen in Kenya. They will not happen in Zambia here. Edgar Chagwa Lungu lost an election because of, among other things, audit statements and the fact that he bought fire engines of $1 million each. The same fire engines that we have bought for 500 million each. So the citizen is not playing its own role. There is no agency on the part of the citizen, the Wananchi, because they must ultimately give scaffolding to the institutions that are doing their job, i.e. Parliament and the Auditor General. After all, we have a constitution that says constantly power is derived from the people. But where are the people? They can't be asleep when Mrs. Chiri is writing such horrible narratives of capture? Where are the other institutions of the state? Where is the Anti-Corruption Commission? Where is the prosecutor, general? Where is the Human Rights Commission? Because there's a connection between financial plunder and human rights. Where are they? Where is civic society too? Because apart from ZimCode, which makes noise on these issues, and Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights, which fights these issues, Veritas, which fights these issues, where are the other players in civic society? Where is Zim Rights? Where is the Transparency International Zimbabwe chapter, and so forth? So the long and short of what I'm saying is that we are a weak state in terms of the capacity of the citizen to have his or her own agency and to defend himself and to assert its space. And that's why this government does whatever it wants. In any other country, that audit report will force a government to resign. Boris Johnson has been forced to resign on much less, on a party. These people are stealing billions. So, and of course, next year they will go before the public and say, vote for us. Vote for us. Mm-hmm. And it appears in Africa, as in Zimbabwe, the more you steal, the more you become electable, and which is a tragedy, which is an absolute tragedy.
You spoke about the institutions doing their work, but if you also look at the audit report, Mthuli says the office is one, underfunded, two, there's a massive brain drain and staff exodus because
she says this in the, not so much in the 2020 report, but in the 2019 report. So in the 2019 report, she says she's underfunded. There's a huge staff turnover. She doesn't have software. She doesn't have computers, hardware. She doesn't even have a decent head office. She doesn't even have a office. And most importantly, very simple thing, she doesn't have a board. The audit office board is not there. She's also underfunded. The international rule is that audit offices get 1% of the budget. She's getting less than 0.34% of the budget. And you know that sometime 2 years ago, a very senior government official actually moved that we should abolish the office of the Auditor General. You know him. I shan't mention him by name. So she's under siege. So instead of liquidating her office by expunging it from the constitution, they are liquidating her office by simply underfunding her and crippling her bureaucratic structure, which is very sad.
Let's paint a picture. What would really happen if that office remains underfunded and is not able to perform its functions, although their reports are gathering dust?
Well, it compromises the quality of their data, and even in the 2020 report, I would have wanted a passage that sought to convert, that sought to say 102 billion is really what. She doesn't do that. Another disturbing thing that I see there is the failure to mention entities. So you are told the company got Y, but you are not told of the company. In the past, you would mention Pasta, Secunda, and so forth. So I think they are squeezing her to a point where she has to compromise her work and so forth. So that's what happens in failed states. That's what happens in captured states. They kill state institutions, particularly state institutions that are capable of questioning them, which is why in Zimbabwe they've killed the constitution, a very good constitution, by 2 terrible amendments. They're now killing these institutions by underfunding, by firing people, by intimidating people, and so forth. And it's regrettable. And I'm sure if you were to speak to ZAC as well, they will speak of underfunding. They will speak of lack of resources, lack of equipment. And one of the things that Mrs. Chiri says, One of the things that I know Zeki is raised is because these modern crimes, many of them are cyber crimes, but they're very sophisticated cases of transfer pricing, thin capitalization, and so forth. So you need specialized departments of kids that would have gone to some of the top universities in the world to learn forensic auditing, forensic investigations, because modern crime is evolving. In the olden days, people would rob banks physically using guns. In present days, they don't need guns. They just need a mobile phone and an application to rob a bank. So you now need national institutions to be equal to these high-level cerebral crimes that are now taking place. And I know Zach doesn't have that. The Zimbabwe Republic Police doesn't have that. Mrs. Chiri doesn't have that.
But you are an alternative government as the Triple C. I mean, what is it that people, because as you said, next year people will be looking to go to election. What would you promise the people of Zimbabwe to give them?
Look, you know, accountability, good governance, honesty. You see, the audit reports are ugly because you've got thieves that are in office. So it is up to the citizens of Zimbabwe to ensure that they vote for men and women of integrity, men and women that are accountable. You never saw during the time of the GNU, you never saw a single account being, qualified. And in fact, I spent the first 2 years of my life, 2009, 2010, bringing supplementary budgets and condonation bills of things that had happened before my time. Before my time. So governance, sound micromanagement. One of the things that is making this is obviously the mismanagement of the exchange, the mismanagement of our currency. All these things have got a multiplier on the quality of auditing. Enforcement of the Act, the Public Finance Management Act, is a very decent act, but they're not complying with it. Why are they not complying it? Why are people not being, brought to disciplinary committees? Why are people not being fired for not doing their job? So it's an entire ecosystem that requires changing, and Zimbabwe needs to change it as soon as possible because, as I've said before, it's getting worse and worse. We started off at 2.7 billion. We went to 3.5 billion. We went to 6.9 billion. And now we are 102 billion. It's a dog's breakfast.
I just want to hear your views, Honorable Vice President of the CC, on the gold coins. I want to solicit your views. Government will be selling gold coins, and they say that this is probably going to bring some stability to our local currency and also savings to the people of Zimbabwe.
Look, it's a lot of hogwash. It's a lot of rubbish. How you buy the gold coins in using money, they will be costing around $1,800 US. So if you've got $1,800 US, how does translating its form into gold coin facilitating you saving? Because you can simply put the 1,800 in your nostro, FCA. They are not being upfront with the people of Zimbabwe. They are not telling the people of Zimbabwe the real reasons why they're introducing the gold coin. The gold coin is not a currency. It's not a currency. is not issued in terms of Section 43, Section 44 of the Reserve Bank Act. If it was a currency as a coin, then it would have denominations like 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents, 40 cents, 50 cents to $1 or $5. You can mint a coin of $100 if you like. You are allowed by the law. This doesn't have a value for that. So it's not a currency. It's not a currency. It's not a currency. If it's not a currency, we must then ask the question, how does it stabilize the Zimbabwean dollar? And that's where the fiction, comes. Why is the Zimbabwean dollar unstable? The Zimbabwean dollar is unstable, number one, because the process of de-dollarization was done without the existence of the requisite fundamentals being in place. What are those requisite fundamentals? Number one, you need a strong current account. In other words, you need to be exporting more than you are importing. The ratio of your exports to your imports need to be around 4:1. In other words, for every dollar that is coming in as export earnings, only $1 should go out as imports. Now we've got the reverse situation. Reverse situation. We're not producing. Our GDP is low. We're not earning a lot of foreign currency. So there will always be pressure on the Zimbabwean dollar. Two, we are printing money. There's too much money chasing the US dollar. And therefore the price of the Zimbabwean dollar goes down. Where is this money coming from? They are dishing out billions and billions of dollars to contractors that are building these roads. When these people get their money in RTGS, they immediately go and purchase the US dollar. They are theoretically pushing billions of dollars to farmers who are delivering grain at the GMB. Theoretically, farmers are being paid for maize $90 per ton and $76,000 per ton. When they get their $76,000, because it's losing value every day, they go to the paro market. So there's constant pressure. There's too much RTGS, too much local currency pursuing the US dollar. And when you've got too much money chasing too few goods, two things happen. The value of your local currency goes down and inflation goes up. We have been here before, Mkoma Blessed. This is what happened in 2008. This is what happened in 2007. This is what happened in 2006. Surely we should have a shame. We should have learned from our mistake. The gold coin does not address any of those issues. The gold coin does not address any of those issues. It doesn't address our current account. It doesn't address the issue of money being pumped into the.
But 3 weeks ago, Finance Minister Mthuli made a statement which he said that when they also announced the gold coins, that this was currency stabilization measures, which also put legal use of the US dollar back into circulation and stuff like that. How did you see that statement?
They said that on the 4th of May 2016, when they introduced the bond note, if you go to the paper that John Mangudya presented on the 4th of May, it was also called currency stabilization. They say that in October of 2018, when they bifurcated accounts between Nostro FCA and RTGS FCA, they called it a currency stabilization measure. So each time they use the word currency stabilization measure, you must know what it really means. A currency destabilization measure. Don't believe them. Don't trust them.
But in your reading of that statement, did it do anything meaningful for the economy?
No one believes what Mthuli says. That is why the minute he opens his mouth, things get worse. He opened his mouth on the 7th June, when he banned banks, things got worse. He opened his mouth 2 weeks ago on the 25th when he announced the continued existence of multiple currencies. Things got worse. When he had made his announcement on the 7th of May, the rate was 1:300. Now it's 1:1000. So he should seal his mouth shut. He is bad for the economy. The reason why he's bad for the economy is that no one trusts him. No one believes in him. No one has got confidence in him. I don't know about his children, but I know that the market out there doesn't trust and believe him.
And there was a statement that was made on that day, and I wanted us to discuss this. But
so let me just finish on the gold coin. Let me just finish on the gold coin. Zimbabwe has become a major center of money laundering. So as I'm talking to you right now, there are millions of dollars that are coming into Zimbabwe to buy our gold. So that money is being cleaned in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe has become a washing machine. So Zimbabwe cleans the money. The money goes out as gold bars. When the money goes out as gold bars are clean. They're fungible. They can be sold anyway. So gold coins are simply further enabling the destination Zimbabwe is a big washing machine that is cleaning this gold. And we know who controls gold in Zimbabwe. We know who the gold players are. Ask Scott Sakupani. Ask Simon Radland. There's a man in Midlands who owns 700 gold claims. Ask Owen Munda. I shan't mention his name. You know him. He loves to put on a scarf. Him and his children, they've literally taken over all the gold mines. So this is just a way of getting their money out. That is why this has no relationship with the ordinary person in the ordinary economy. What ordinary person and ordinary citizen has got 1,800 US dollars? You don't have that, Dara President. Your staff here don't have that. They earn in RTGS. So the bulk of our people have nothing to do with this. This is about elite capture. That same elite which gets money from the auction floor. That same elite which sells money on 4th Street. That same elite which gets roads contracts. That same elite which gets command agriculture imports. That same elite which has got gold mines. That same elite that owns the Zim alloys of this world, the Pintura nickels of this world. How many of them? There are not more than 20. Gigananda, the Z Gurnadis of this world, the Simon Radlands of this world, the Kudata Guireis of this world. They know them. That's why they can't name them. That's why they can't name them. They are the same characters who abused Zamko, and you know one or two things about that. They are the same people that the Reserve Bank itself said there are people who have gone to borrow money, billions of dollars, and went and attacked the auction system, and when they attacked 4th Street. They can't be named, but they are the who is who of ZANU elite, the Billy Rottenbergs of this world. So this thing has nothing to do with the ordinary average person in Ngai, in Makokoa, in Cholocho, in Dotito, in Chendambuya, in Mukumbura, in Rusambo, in Marymount Mission, in Mazoe Bridge. This has got everything to do with the crooks in suits who drive fancy cars that they park at Sam Levis Village.
Yeah, as we close, you know, on that particular day when they announced these measures, the Permanent Secretary of Finance said that when teachers were earning around $540 per month during the time when you were finance minister, he said something about the rate.
The exchange rate.
Yes.
Yeah, but there was no exchange rate. You see, government must never put people who are not qualified, who don't have the qualifications. For you to be a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance, you must have at least a minimum of a master's degree in economics. So if you take people who can't spell the word GDP deflator, and who can't do economic modeling, you have a problem. And that is the problem.
This guy ran one of the best performing banks in this country. I mean,
a bank is an institution. That was a British institution. Anyone can run treasury, my friend, a bank treasury. So you have the requisite qualifications, you have knowledge. The Minister of Finance is a technical ministry. The Minister of Finance is a technical ministry. So you can't take youth officers and ward officers to be permanent secretaries. You have to have technical people with minimum qualifications of a master's degree in economics. Here, the Minister of Finance. You can put ward officers and youth officers in other ministries, but definitely not the Minister of Finance.
but that statement makes sense to you because, I mean,
It doesn't.
540 US
There was
dollars
no
then.
exchange rate. There was no exchange rate. There was no exchange rate. The black market only came back after 2016, after 4 May 2016, when they introduced the bond note. You know that, I know that. But for a permanent secretary to say that, it means you are structurally illiterate. And that's why I said we need qualified people in that ministry. You can't put ward officers and youth officers in that ministry, no matter how tall they are or how loud their voices are.
And finally, Honorable Biti, what is the future of Zimbabwe in terms of the issues around the issues that we are discussing, our audit, our control structure, our finances?
As long as ZANU-PF is there and as long as the current regime is there, the country has gone to the dogs. Literally, metaphorically. So the question is, we have to have a change of direction. We need new leaders. We need a major paradigm shift. It can be business as usual.
Some say that the CC can't bring that because it doesn't have structures. Maybe you could address that.
It's such a pointless debate. It's really I watch it, I read about it. It's such a this is an organic movement. This is an organic movement. Everything it does is structured. Everything that we do is structured. It's got logic, it has got sense, it has got... you can't win 19 out of 28 seats if you're not structured. It's not possible. It's not possible. We're an organization. You understand? We're an organization. So the debate is pointless. The debate is pointless. You can't have a structured outcome when you are non-existent. So it's a pointless debate. It's a pointless debate. It's a puerile debate. It's a puerile debate. Let's debate ZANU-PF. Let's debate the failure. Let's debate these audit reports. Let's debate the failure of their education policy. Let's debate the failure of their... It's a pointless debate because everything that the Triple C is doing is within a structured context.
Thank you very much, Honorable Biti, for your time and for as you continue to give us insights in important issues or national questions of the day around our finances, around how our country can better manage its revenue and systems. I mean, the money that you're talking about, Honorable Biti, you would then look at them and say, so how are we failing to pay our civil servants? Why are our doctors not being well paid if we can have all these monies like 100 billion Zimbabwean dollars over expenditure and still ministries perform at 34-36%? Something needs to be done. Now, this was the situation right now here on Heart and Soul TV and radio in proud partnership with Kotrad. The Kotrad from Ashingo, encourages everyone to have an interest in how they are being governed. As a citizen, you must be a citizen, not just a person, but a citizen of a country. The citizen of a country ask questions on how their taxpayers are being used, on how their country is being managed. And we were just having that conversation with the former finance minister and the CCC vice president, Honorable Tendai Biti, who is also a member of parliament. Thank you very much for your time.